And yeah, we are live, I think.
Awesome. So hi everyone. We are starting today GraphQL Con 3. We are super excited for this meetup. It's been a while. I mean, I think it's been like 2 months since the last meetup, and we have such incredible two speakers today. So I'm gonna introduce them. So first we have David Négrier, CTO and co-founder of the Code Machine. And he's gonna be talking about building a GraphQL API in PHP with GraphQL. So David, please feel free to introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi, guys. I'm David Négrier. I'm the CTO of The Coding Machine. We are an IT company based in France and in Hong Kong. We started an Hong Kong office recently. I've been doing a lot of PHP in my career for the last 15 years and gaining some interest in GraphQLite, in GraphQL recently. And today I will be presenting how to build a GraphQL API in PHP. I will be presenting first the whole ecosystem, and then I will be doing a zoom on GraphQLite, which is a library I wrote to do GraphQL in PHP. Yeah.
Wow, that's super exciting. I'm really looking forward for your talk, and I know that you have also a bit of live coding. So let's hope for the best. Yeah, really looking forward for it. The second speaker for today is going to be Vilva Athiban. Sorry if I mispronounce it. He says JavaScript engineer working in Omeo, and he's going to be speaking about let the UI be optimistic. So please, Vilva, introduce yourself, and I'm really looking forward to see your talk.
Hey, thanks, Carlos, for introducing. I'm Vilva. I'm based out in Berlin currently. I do work for Omeo, but currently we are in reduced working hours. So I also trying to help another company owned by my friends. It's called Product Ride. What we basically trying to do with Product Ride is there's always a bridge between affordable cost and quality products. We are trying to bridge it using the expenses in India. Like we are trying to make use of the low expenses in India to give affordable products. And we also trying to train people and do other stuff. So since I'm in reduced working hours, partly I'm helping them. That's how I'm going to represent today. Like I'm going to represent Product Right today. Still, I'm an employee with Omeo, of course, and I'll be talking about UI, the optimistic UI. Like life is about optimism, right? Everything is optimistic. So why not your UI be you and I and UI? So that's what we are going to talk about today. I have a small piece of demo and maybe like 5-6 lines of live coding. That's it. Let's see how it goes. Fingers crossed.
That sounds super exciting. I cannot wait to that. Also, we couldn't run these events without the help of our sponsors. So today, helping us to setting up the streaming because it's not that easy. We have Engineer Singapore and we have Mitchell again as the last meetup. So please, Mitchell, let us know what you are doing in Engineer Singapore, because I really like the idea about your goal and that incredible initiative. So please feel free to introduce yourself.
Ooh, thanks, Carlos. So I'm Michael Cheng. I run the engineers.sg. So we are like a not-for-profit kind of initiative. So it's a community initiative where we go to different meetups and we record the meetups and put it up online. So on our website, we have about a few thousand videos that were recorded since 2013. And we cover quite a fair bit of conferences in and around, actually mostly in Singapore. So all the meetups in Singapore. And then because right now of COVID-19, wanted to also help support the communities who are here, who wants to go online. So who wants to continue doing their meetups. So essentially I'm supporting them in terms of like hosting Zoom calls and even like helping with the live stream. So like today we're live streaming on YouTube.
Yeah, thanks so much. Without you, we couldn't run this event. So thanks so much, Mitchell, and hopefully we can be collaborating together in other upcoming events as well.
Cool.
And our second sponsor today, the community sponsor, is going to be Brickle, and we have Tobias, CTO of Brickle. and he's been doing a lot of stuff with the GraphQL community. And yeah, without him, we couldn't be here as well. So please, Tobias, feel free to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Carlos. Hey, everyone. My name is Tobias. I'm CTO and co-founder of Brickle. We are an e-commerce platform for custom products. And we've been part of the GraphQL community for a while, and also part of the GraphQL Hong Kong meetup. And yeah, I'm really happy to have this meetup again today. Thank you, Mitchell, really for setting up the streaming today. And I'm really looking forward to the talks. David, I think PHP talk, I haven't seen many PHP talks on GraphQL, so I'm really looking forward to that talk. And also, Vilva, your talk, I'm looking forward to that. It's really a common problem you run into building apps, so I think it's a really nice talk to see. And I'm a bit jealous as well. You're in Berlin, my hometown. I'm not there right now, so yeah, but I'm really looking forward to the talks, and thank you everybody for joining.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tobias, and everybody, sponsor and speaker. So I think right now what we are gonna do is start with the first talk. So I'm gonna give the screen and the audio and the video to David, and then David, feel free to start your talk, of course.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so let's get started. So I already introduced my talk. I'm gonna share my screen here, and yeah. So basically, there will be 3 parts in this talk. The first part is about the ecosystem, the GraphQL ecosystem in PHP. It does exist, and it is actually quite large. Then how to choose the right library for your project if you're doing some PHP. And finally, a demo of GraphQLite. So about the ecosystem, well, I'm sure all of you already know that when you're doing GraphQL, you need a GraphQL client in the browser and a GraphQL middleware on the server side. And you have actually implemented implementations of GraphQL middlewares in many languages. Of course, not JS, it started there, but also PHP, Java, C#, or whatever. Today, we're going to be zooming on PHP. And if we have a look at the PHP GraphQL middlewares, there are actually 2 kinds of such middlewares, and I will split them a bit arbitrarily in 2 sections. One that I call core libraries, and another that I call wrapper libraries. And core libraries are actually middlewares that are quite low level. They are used to parse the GraphQL queries, to serve the response in JSON. They are really powerful, but they are kind of hard to use. The developer experience to use such a library is kind of poor. They're hard to use. And so on top of those core libraries, people built wrapper libraries, which are actually libraries that use core libraries and that are more high level, more opinionated, certainly easier to use, maybe not as much powerful as the core library, but basically, most of the time when you're doing an application, you will be choosing a wrapper library, right? In PHP, if we have a look at core libraries, there are not that many of them. There are actually 2 right now. There is Webonics, which is the de facto standard in PHP. Almost everybody is using Webonics. And then there is a newcomer that is called Railty, which is developed by some Russian guys. It's in active development. It looks really promising. There is no solid documentation yet. So right now, if you need a core library, definitely go to Webonics, but keep an eye and eye on Railty. There was in the past more libraries here. There was one that was called Yoshido that has been abandoned in favor of Webonics. So right now it's pretty much Webonics if you want a core library. And then on top of this core library, there are wrapper libraries, and there are many of them. And today, all those libraries are using Webonics under the hood. Okay, it's a wrapper around Webonics to make it easier to use. So basically, we have API platform and the overblock GraphQL bundles that are really used with the Symfony framework. If you're doing Laravel, you can use a library called Lighthouse. I will be presenting those a bit later. If you're doing if you're using a CMS like WordPress or Drupal, WordPress and Drupal have modules to plug to present a GraphQL API. So if you want to do a headless CMS, it's quite easy using WordPress or Drupal and adding a GraphQL module on them. And then there is GraphQLite, which I've been authoring for the last 2 years, and which is a framework agnostic. You can use it whatever the framework you use. Let's make a quick look, a quick zoom on Webonics. Okay, so Webonics, it is the core library here. And how does it look like coding with Webonics? Well, here I've got a GraphQL type. Okay, and basically this type is a story. It has fields with which all have types. Building that in Webonics, the code would look like this. Okay, it's kind of verbose, and as I told you, the developer experience is not that great. But basically, I'm creating a type. Its name is story here, and I've got a number of fields that are declared here with the type of the field, the description. If I've got arguments, the arguments are declared here. And finally, I have a resolver that will be called when I query this field. The resolver is called to fetch the data. This is really verbose, right? And also, it might look a bit like some libraries, some GraphQL libraries in JavaScript, especially if you have been doing, been using Express GraphQL. Webonics started by mimicking a lot what Facebook was doing in its own JavaScript library. If I want to declare a query, well, I'm creating a type query whose fields are here. It's actually exactly the same thing as defining a type, because in GraphQL, a query is a field on the type whose name is query. And finally, if I want to resolve a query, I can call the execute query static method, pass in parameters the schema. The schema is an object containing all the types that I have declared. I'm passing in the query string, so the GraphQL query, and it will return an array that I can cast to JSON and return to the client. So this is the experience you're getting when you're using Webonics directly, right? And the problem with this approach is that it actually requires a lot of work to set up a GraphQL API. Obviously, there are gains to use GraphQL versus REST. Its queries are client-driven. It has introspection. You can see the schema from the client. It has strict types, which is definitely one of the really cool features. But if it is too much a pain to put the API in place, it maybe won't be worth it. So what we are going to do is we are going to use a wrapper library, which is easier to work with to offset the gains versus the costs and to make it worthwhile to use GraphQL. Now, if we need to choose a wrapper library, well, there are basically two kinds of such libraries. There are schema-first libraries and code-first libraries. In a schema-first wrapper library, basically, your task as a developer will be to write the GraphQL schema. And then the job of the library will be from the schema to build, to find a way to link the schema to the PHP code. On the other hand, if you are using a code-first approach, you will be designing objects. and then the job of the library will be to generate the schema from the classes and the objects you've been designing. So, and basically, when you are using a language that is loosely typed, you tend to have libraries that are schema first. If you're doing JavaScript, you will find a lot of schema first libraries. On the other hand, if you are using a strictly typed language like Java, you will find a lot of code first libraries. PHP sits a bit in the middle because it is optionally typed. You can have types, but you're not forced to. And so you have the two kinds of libraries out there. And basically, in the schema first part, you have Overblog, Lighthouse, Realty, Siler. And in the code first category, API platform, GraphQLite, and GetPop. Let's make a quick zoom on Lighthouse. Okay, so Lighthouse is a schema first library. Let's see how it works. Lighthouse is built on top of Laravel. When you are using Lighthouse, what you are going to do is you are going to design this GraphQL schema. And basically, you are going to annotate this schema with directives, okay? This is a directive, this is another directive. And these directives will be used by Lighthouse to bind this schema to the database model directly. Basically, under the hood, Lighthouse is using Eloquent, and Eloquent is the ORM of Laravel. So basically, if I'm using the auth directive, automatically, Lighthouse will put the current user in the me query. You can do quite powerful stuff with only directives. For instance, the create directive here will create directly an object in database when you call create post, and it will put a post directly into the database. And you can do validation right here on each field. Okay, so it's very efficient. I mean, you can build a complete GraphQL API in very few lines of code with this approach. Also, it is very, very tied to Laravel and to Eloquent, which is the ORM. So if you want to do advanced things and if you don't want to be too much tied to your database, you will have to write custom directives, which is a bit of a pain. But if you have a simple use case and you only want to do quick binding to a database, it is a great tool. Okay. One thing that is also interesting, it has support for subscriptions, which is so you can do real-time GraphQL can answer in real time, which is not that common in PHP. So that is Lighthouse. Let's now make a zoom on API platform. So API platform, okay, it is a code first library. In API platform, the philosophy is the opposite. You start by writing a PHP class, and then you're going to put annotations on the class. An API platform will read the annotation and generate the GraphQL schema for you. Okay. API platform was first built with a REST philosophy in mind. And what is kind of fun with the API platform is that you can expose quite easily both a REST API and a GraphQL API in very few lines of code. So you get both kind of APIs support using the same code, which is cool. However, if you want to have a good control on the GraphQL schema that is generated, API platform may not be the best tool out there, because the underlying philosophy is very much REST. So you have CRUD, you can create, read, update, and delete a record. If you want to do some other things, it will be a bit harder to customize. It has support for subscriptions too. So Yeah, so that was a zoom on Lighthouse and API platform. There are many other libraries out there, and I've been preparing a few schemas to help you decide what library you can use by answering a few questions. So let's jump into that. So basically, if you want to pick a GraphQL library, I think the first, and if you are doing PHP, the first question you should ask is, are you developing an application or a tool? Okay, so basically, if you are if you are developing a tool, if your model is dynamic, for instance, if if you are developing a CMS and the end user can create a new content type, can create new type, add new fields, stuff like that, then you want to go for Webonics. Okay, you want to go low level and build your own tool on it. If you are developing an application and you have a set of classes already well defined, then you want to go for a wrapper library. Then there is a question, do you need subscriptions? If you want to do things in real time, then you have to pick a library that supports subscriptions. There are not many out there. It's Lighthouse, API Platform, Siler, or Webonics. Otherwise, you can choose any library. Then there is another question, which is, do you want to use Relay on your front end? If you are using Relay, Relay imposes a number of constraints on the schemas that are generated. And not all the libraries out there have support for this kind of schema. So if you want to use Relay, you should definitely aim for those libraries, mainly Lighthouse and GraphQL bundles. Finally, depending on the framework you are using, you will also have to pick one of those libraries. Some libraries are framework agnostic, like Webonics and GraphQLite, and you can use them everywhere. All right. So finally, the last question: do you prefer a schema first or a code first approach? If you want to go schema first, pick one here. If you want to go code first, pick one here. And when you answered all those questions, if you are lucky, well, you still have a choice between one or two libraries. If you are unlucky, there are no libraries answering your need. For instance, if you want to use a code-first approach in Laravel and using subscriptions, well, you can't, basically. But yes, this approach should help you choose one of those libraries. Okay, and I try to be not too much biased, but yes, of course, I authored a GraphQLite, and so, well, now we will enter the third phase of this talk, and I will be doing a quick demo about GraphQLite. Before doing the demo, I will try to explain you the philosophy that drove GraphQLite. Basically, my idea was, well, let's imagine you want to do a simple echo query in PHP, okay? If you want to do such a query, in GraphQL, it will look like this. I'm creating a query type, and basically, yes, there is a field echo, it takes a message, it will return, well, I'm doing an echo. To build that using Webonics, I would need to put this code. I already presented it. I need to put an echo field, which returns a string that takes into argument a string, and that resolves by reading the arguments and returning them. But if I want to write the same echo in pure PHP, basically it only takes 4 lines. Basically, the function name could map the query name in GraphQL. The parameters here could map GraphQL arguments, and the return type is already defined. and then the body of the function is actually my resolver. So what would be really cool would be, what if I was able to simply put a query annotation here, and well, this query annotation would automatically tell my library, GraphQLite in my case, that this function should be actually a GraphQL query. Expose it in GraphQL, that's it. And so that's the philosophy behind GraphQLite, using annotations and using the fact that PHP is already typed, and basically taking PHP types and mapping them automatically to GraphQL types. So this is GraphQLite. GraphQLite is a mapper between PHP types and GraphQL types. And what is kind of fun is that it actually plays quite nice with Doctrine. Okay, Doctrine is the ORM used by Symfony. Basically in Doctrine, you put annotations in your PHP objects, and Doctrine is doing a mapping between PHP objects and database tables. And from the PHP objects, it can generate the database model. And with GraphQLite, we are doing the same thing. We are starting from the PHP objects, and we are generating a GraphQL schema. Yeah, so let's go for the live coding. Quick note, I already told it is framework agnostic. You can use it starting from PHP 7.2, and it's based on WebOnix. Now, for the hard part for me, the demo. Yeah, so we are going to make a quick demo with a marketplace. And basically, my marketplace has companies, and in each company can have several products. And we will be focusing on this relationship between companies and products in the next 5 minutes, right? So let's jump to the code. Here, I already did set up GraphQLite in a Symfony project. The database is already loaded, and I wrote a company controller. Okay, so it's actually a controller like you can find some in MVC frameworks, except it is in a GraphQL controller namespace. Okay, and if you want to put queries or mutations somewhere in your code, you will put them in a controller. So my controller is fed with a company repository. The company repository is the object that will access the database. Okay. And I have this method, which is called getCompanies, that takes a search string and that will query the database for the string and return the results. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put an annotation here, and I'm going to put a query annotation to tell GraphQLite, okay, take this companies function and expose it in the GraphQL schema. If I go in Firefox here, I've got a graphical test client set up. So I'm going to refresh the page, and oops, okay, I'm getting an error. Let's make a quick zoom on this error. And basically what GraphQLite is telling me is that in the getCompanies method, a type hint is missing. Okay, you remember that PHP is optionally typed, but GraphQL must have types. So when I'm using GraphQLite, I must put type into all my functions, all my queries. Here, I did not define any return type. So I need to define one. So I'm going to say getCompanies is returning an array of companies. Now I have a problem. It's that PHP does not have a notion of generics. So I cannot say something like, okay, it's an array of company. This is not valid PHP, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a comment in the PHP doc And in the PHP doc, I can put anything. And especially, I will give a type hint to GraphQLite and tell him that this array is actually an array of companies. So let's go back to Firefox, refresh the page, and oh, I'm getting another error. Okay, let's zoom on this error. It's error-driven development. I'm a big fan of error-driven development. It works really well. I actually tried to make sure that all the error messages are quite clear. It's really important. Well, in your own code, try to pay attention on the error messages you are generating. You are doing your future self a favor. Yeah, so basically, it's telling me that in get companies, it cannot map the class company to a known GraphQL type. What GraphQLite is actually telling me is that I did not tell him explicitly that company is a GraphQL type. And so to do that, I simply add an annotation, which is the type annotation. And the type annotation is telling GraphQLite, okay, map this class to a type. Of course, a type must have some fields. So I'm going to put annotations in the getters here, and I'm going to say, okay, expose ID as a field, and name as a field, and maybe website as a field too. Also, notice that I'm putting the field annotation on getters. I'm not putting the annotation on the properties. The properties are private, so I cannot access them directly. Doctrine has annotation on properties because it is doing some black magic and actually accessing directly private properties. I'm not doing that in GraphQLite, okay? So yes, I must put the field annotation on the getters. So let's go back to graphical. I'm refreshing the page. I don't have any error, so it looks good. And if I'm looking at writing a query, my company's query just appeared. And yeah, I can do a search on any companies containing A, and I'm going to display the ID and the name, place the request, and it is working. And if I'm adding a website, hooray, good. So basically, you can see that I managed to create a GraphQL API by basically adding 3 annotations: query, type, and field, which is pretty cool. So far, I only fetched fields from companies, so let's do some binding with the product. So I'm going to go in the get products getter, and I'm going to add a field on it. I'm going to refresh the page, and I'm getting another error. If I'm zooming on this error, it is telling me that it cannot map the product class to a known GraphQL type. Okay, we already saw this error 2 minutes ago, so I'm pretty sure you know what I should do. I should go in the product class and instruct GraphQLite that the product class is also a type. And so I'm putting a type here, and I'm going to put a field annotation on the ID, on the name, on the price, on the margin of the product. And if I'm refreshing the page, yeah, everything seems to be going great, and I can access the products and access the ID and the name of the product. Ta-da! And it's working. Yeah, so that's it. And basically, my job when I set up a GraphQL API becomes adding a few annotations. And yeah, that's it. So yeah, for the live demo, I won't be going any further. I will be presenting you very quickly a few additional features. For instance, if you want to create a mutation, you have a mutation annotation that can be used to create a mutation. It works exactly the same as the query annotation works. There is built-in support for authentication and authorization that is plugged into your favorite framework, Laravel, Symfony, whatever. But basically, if you are using the right annotation and passing the name of a right, well, then this query will be visible only if the user that is currently logged has this right. You can also use the right annotation on fields directly. You can even do fine-grained authorization. If you want to say that some objects can be seen but not others. In this example, I've got an email field from a user, and basically I am saying that I am looking at the company of the user, of the current user, and comparing it with the company of the user that is logged. User here refers to the user that is currently logged. And basically this is saying, I can see the email of the people that are in the same company as me. I can see the email of my colleagues, but I cannot see the email of someone that is not my colleague. So with this security annotation, we can have something that is going quite deep to do fine-grained authorization. Another feature I like a lot is auto-wiring. Basically, here we are in a domain object, a product, and let's admit I want to compute the VAT of a product. Computing the VAT of a product can be quite complicated. Maybe I need to know the type of the product, the country the user is in. So it can be difficult. And we typically won't do it in the domain object, but rather we will call a service. But when you are in a domain object, accessing services is difficult. And what we can do here is auto-wire, called the auto-wiring, and basically GraphQLite will automatically inject, when I'm calling the VAT field, it will automatically inject from the dependency injection container a service, the VAT service. And I can use it directly in the resolver here. So it enables me to access services and from a domain object by passing those services in parameters of the resolver, which is kind of cool. Yeah, there are many more features available. We have support for validation for enum types, even if they don't exist in PHP, file uploads. What I invite you to do, if you are interested in trying out GraphQLite, is having a look at the documentation. Everything is, I hope, clearly documented. And if you have any issue, well, you can always contact me either on Twitter directly, or if you prefer, just open an issue on the GraphQLite repository. Yeah, so yeah, that's wrap it up. Let's wrap this talk. Basically, doing GraphQL in PHP is definitely possible. You have many possibilities out there, and since GraphQL is pretty cool, well, I definitely invite you to try it out. And that's it. Do you have any questions?
Thanks so much, David. It was such an incredible talk. I really enjoyed it. All the live current demo was good.
Oh, thank you very much.
So, yeah, everything was incredible. So that's great. So yeah, we have a question. Yes.
Yeah.
So Florian, he's asking about if GraphQLite is gonna support or is currently supporting subscriptions.
It is not currently supporting subscriptions. I plan to add support for subscriptions in the future. Maybe not in the two coming months, because I want to release version 4.1 of GraphQLite and no subscriptions won't be part of this release. But yes, I would like to work on that for the end of the year. Definitely.
Oh, that sounds super exciting, I guess. And I think I have another question because I found out super interesting. So I would like to understand, like why did you decide to go and build this incredible technology, and what are kind of like the future plans for it?
Oh, okay. When I started writing GraphQLite, it was 2 years ago, and basically you had only 2 options at the time. It was using Webonics directly, or using Yoshido, which is a library that has been abandoned. And basically, they were really low-level libraries, and they were hard to use. I had this huge project for a client of mine. We are at the coding machine. We are doing mostly intranet and extranet applications, and a client of mine had this huge REST API with a lot of endpoints and maybe redundant endpoints. I wanted to do GraphQL because I knew that the flexibility of GraphQL would be really beneficial for that client. And the only option I had was Webonics, which was too hard to use. And so I decided, I started writing a small library, which became a bit more complex. I did 2-3 versions of the library, and then I told myself, okay, I must work on it really seriously, put it on open source it, and well, that's how GraphQLite was born, actually.
Wow, that sounds so great, and I think like thanks so much for contributing with the GraphQL community, in this case in the PHP, because yeah, I think there are not so many people that either they don't know that they are able to do this, or they figure out, or they like realize that it's a bit more difficult, so it's even like a start, like to contribute. So I think like this like super interested. And I think like if the people, they do know this library, they are going to start to use it, they are going to like it, and then they are going to like adopt in their company. So yeah, thanks so much for sharing this knowledge with us.
And you're welcome. Yeah, it's a pleasure, really.
Yeah, thanks so much for like contacting us to speak, because it's been difficult to find kind of like people that they have communities in Hong Kong, although you are not in Hong Kong right now, but you're like really connected to the Hong Kong community. So yes, so glad to have you here, and thanks so much, and really hope to see you soon.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, David, thanks. So up next, so we are gonna have Vilva. I'm super excited to have Vilva here. We've been in touch for a while, and he's gonna be talking about optimistic UI with GraphQLs, and I guess like JavaScript, maybe TypeScript, we will see. So Vilva, I guess that you can go and share your screen and start your talk.
Oh, thanks a lot for the intro, Carlos. Let me share my entire desktop. Is my screen visible, Carlos? Like, is everything fine?
Yes, you are good to go, and all the screen, audio, video, everything is yours.
Oh, thanks a lot. Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me here to be speaking, and congratulations. We are still waiting for your new job update, actually. And
thanks, Vilva.
It was an amazing talk, David. Like, you just have set the bar so high that I'm already nervous. Thanks for the beautiful talk.
Thank you very much.
Let's start, by the way. Today the topic will be, like I explained, it's more about optimistic UI, why we need optimistic UI, what are the real life examples that are already existing, and how how a optimistic UI can impact your UI. That's what we are going to talk about today. MVP program. It's for anybody who starts in this Corona lockdown times. People gets ideas. to get MVPs soon. We have a program for them. Cool. Let's begin. What is optimistic UA? Optimistic UA is not a very big, it's a fancy term, but it's a simple front-end development paradigm. That's how we call it. And what it does is, the UI just be optimist. So it assumes that always for every action, it's going to be positive response, and it already updates the UI accordingly. So the client updating UI optimistically, assuming request is successful, is the main definition of optimistic UI. How it works? When the real operation is happening, actually, it already switches to the final state, so the user doesn't feel like the real operation is still in progress. Does it mean like, are we lying to the user? No, definitely not. We are not lying to the user, but we are predicting, because most of the times we believe in our code, we believe in our APIs, so we say 100 times, but 100%, but no, most of the times our operations are going to be successful, and so we already predict it to be successful and start updating the UI for the user. In other words, if you have to say what is optimistic UI, optimistic UI is a UI which knows how to manage time well, unlike me. Like, I'm very bad in time management. So why do we need optimistic UI? First thing is, it gives an impression to the user, whoever using it, like your app is super fast. The user don't have to wait and wait for any operation or get blocked on the screen and just wait for the operation to get completed. It just makes your app feel faster. And the major advantage is on slow devices. It gives us seamless operation. Like, for instance, mobile devices, even though we are in 2020, we still have Corona and all the stuff, but still mobile devices are slow at areas. It's not uniform, it's not reliable. And in devices like that, the speed, the UX is so important to have a user getting stayed, or he just switches tabs and goes to the next. To give a good experience to the user, mainly on slow devices, optimistic UI is the best option, I'll say. The next thing is, it doesn't break users' flow. There's a reason why I highlighted flow in caps. It has nothing to do with the static type checking flow. There is a psychological concept called flow. Users, or generally humans, when they get involved in work, they get into a state called flow, where you would have often wondered, as developers, I assume most of the people are developers who are attending, you would have often wondered, sometimes when you're working deeply or very interestingly in a topic or in a subject, you will feel like you have reduced the number of blinks, or you haven't even blinked your eyes. That is because you are in the flow state. This psychological flow state gets a user completely involved in anything he is doing. And the optimistic UA helps the user stay or continue in the flow state itself. It doesn't break the flow for the user. And next thing is, it streamlines the experience. Like, say, in olden days, we used to see the entire screen blocking loaders, right? Like, the whole screen will be blocked with a semi-transparent black print background, and the loader will be spinning in the middle, and we have to wait slowly, seeing when the loader will get over. So optimistic UA avoids all this stuff. These are the major advantages of optimistic UA. Okay, optimistic UA looks so cool so far. So does it mean like you can implement it everywhere? You can implement it however you want? No. There are few things which you should consider before using optimistic UA. You should first find where to use it. That is what I mean by 1 second can be forward sometimes. Like, for few operations, the user is okay to wait. There, we don't have to use optimistic UA. But there are few operations where the user expects an instant feedback, and that's where we should decide whether we should use optimistic UA or not, based on your line of business, based on your users and other stuff. Next important thing is response to control activation. So what is this? This is again a psychological term. Response to control activation is nothing but when you do a control activation. This control activation is nothing but activating one of your controls. That can be your mouse click, that can be your keyboard key press, that can be your joysticks, light pen, whatever it may be. When a user activates a control, he expects a response in 100 to 200 milliseconds. So if you see, the blink of the eyes is like 100 milliseconds. So we never feel 100 milliseconds as a time at all. We feel if something gets to us back within 100 to 200 milliseconds, say 150 milliseconds, we feel it's already instant, because we are used to our blink of our eyes. We never know we are blinking actually. So that's the time which is very optimal or very good for a user to get response after a control is activated. Hence, you should decide if you're going to use optimistic UI, you should respond within this time. This is a very good time for using optimistic UI. And the most important thing, API success rates. Mostly, we use optimistic UI not for something which happens in the front end or in the client alone. We use optimistic UI in cases where the client has to interact with the backend or with the server, right? That's when like it takes a lot of time. We don't know how long it will take. So we just shows the user like already it's done, it's successful and all the stuff. But if your API fails, it's going to be so dirty. Like the user got a awesome feeling. He feels like in heaven when he's using your app, and suddenly bong, an error message comes saying like your API failed. That's going to be having a negative effect on optimistic UI. Hence, your API success rate should be more than 97%. Only then go for optimistic UI, or just follow the traditional ways where you use loaders and all the other stuff. And like I explained flow in the previous slide, the ideal time within which we should respond to the user, otherwise exceeding the time which the user's flow gets break, is 2 seconds. Believe me, get it right, it's just 2 seconds. If you get distracted for 2 seconds, your flow gets broken. That's the reason most of our developers like prefer big earphones, wearing it overhead and like not focusing on the outer world and just getting core into the code. Reason is this is the reason. Like it's a psychological reason, and this flow gets broken even if they are distracted for 2 seconds. That is why like when I code, I mostly code in the nights. I don't get any distractions. These are the metrics we should have in mind. So if you're even going to do optimistic UI, of course, every time you can't give a 2 seconds response, but we'll see how to handle that. But it's so optimal if you can give a response in 2 seconds. That too, depending on your line of business, it can be so critical as well. These are the key metrics we should have in mind when we are implementing optimistic UI. These are the main numbers. Now let's see what are the different types of optimistic UIs with real world examples. First thing is subtle UI. Subtle UI is nothing but it gives us a positive feeling. This optimistic UI is so optimistic, like you do something, immediately it gives you a response. It makes you feel happy. But if it fails, there's no way to know if it failed or if it's still in progress. It doesn't tell us at all. It just says you did an operation, assume it's successful, just go and do your other business. Don't worry about this. That is subtle UI. And subtle UI with progress is, subtle UI again, if it fails, it doesn't show you any error messages, but it still can show you a progress. Like say you make a API call and it's in progress. It shows still it's in progress, but if it fails or if it errors, it doesn't throw an obvious message on your face. That is subtle UI with progress. Next is UI with progress and actions. What this does, when you make a request, it updates your optimistic UI. Like it updates your UI optimistically, assuming it's going to be successful. But at the same time, it gives a clear indication that it's still in progress. And if at all it fails, it gives you a list of actions. This is one type of optimistic UI. But it still doesn't throw a very obvious error on your face. The last one is subtle UI with error. When you don't feel it as an optimistic UI at all, you just keep on doing your stuff. But suddenly when the optimistic UI breaks at some point, it throws an error on your face. I'm sure Google Docs doesn't do it anymore. That's why I'm not able to get a screenshot of it. I'll show examples for other types in the next slides. But Google Docs used to have a feature like where you keep on typing, but if you're not connected to internet, it will try to sync it for some time, but after some time it tells you on the face. It gives you a pop-up. It says like you are not connected to the internet, so your changes cannot be synced or saved. This type of error is like normally the optimistic UI is subtle. It doesn't throw anything or it doesn't tell anything on the face, but when it faces an error, it just throws it on the face. And remaining three things, we'll see it with examples. Subtle UI. Twitter is a beautiful example of subtle UI. If you see here, I have liked the post, and if you see in my network tabs, the events are still pending. Like they have just started. They haven't even given a response yet. But already the UI has turned into a liked state. The post has already been liked by me. This is subtle UI because I like this. Say I after liking this post, I just scroll down and I just move to other post. And say if this APIs, which is supposed to increment the likes, got failed, then it's going to be a problem because Twitter doesn't tell you that this particular post is still not liked by you. It doesn't throw any error. It doesn't show any progress. It just fails silently because Twitter considers like a person not liking a post is not a very big deal. Like they are just fine with it. But most cases they are so reliable or confident on their APIs, it's always successful. But there are a few cases in my past as well where I had to use my mobile network. I'll be traveling. I like a post, and after some time, if I see it will not be liked at all. So that's something live example or real world example of subtle UI. This Facebook Messenger is a beautiful example for subtle UI with progress. You type in a message in Facebook Messenger, send it, you get a feeling like the message is already sent. Like it's so optimistic, right? But it tells you in a very subtle way that it's still in progress. If you see here in the first screenshot, below the text message, you can see an empty round. Like there's a circle, but there's nothing inside. If it fails, it turns into something else. If it's successful, it turns into a tick mark. If it's seen, it turns into a blue tick mark. So this is a beautiful example of subtle UI with progress. Yeah, it gave us a good feeling. We are happy that our message is already being sent, but at the same time, it's telling us in a subtle way, like the message is still not sent. It's still in progress, and it indicates us when it is being sent successfully. This is a real world example for subtle UI with progress. Now comes the beautiful app, Tinder. I guess most of you are aware of it. Tinder is I like this feature of Tinder. What Tinder does, it shows the progress and it shows the actions live on your face abruptly. Say you send a message to your crush saying like, hey girl and something. And if the message fails, it's a very important message, right? You can't afford to leave a message or miss a message by from sending to your girl. Like it's very important in your day-to-day life. So it just throws on your face with red colors and highlights saying your message is not delivered. Of course, even this UI is like optimistic. As soon as you send, the message goes and gets added. It doesn't show any loader or something. But when it fails, it throws the progress and it throws the error. And on clicking of the error, it gives you options, whether you can copy or delete, or you can retry sending it. Of course, all of us will just retry sending it, right? We just have to get more matches in Tinder. So these are the different types of optimistic UIs which I could find. Actually there can be even more, but I thought this can give you a good introduction or good examples actually. Okay, now we know why we need optimistic UI, what are its advantages, what we should consider, and we have also seen some real life examples. Next is the handling errors part. There are two ways of handling errors. We have already seen the two ways in the previous examples. One is the salience way, like the user should be given a prompt visible error so he knows that something is failed. A beautiful example for this is our Tinder. When the message fails, it throws an error on the face and it tells you like your message did not pass through. Second is the casuality. This is more interesting. This is not the type which is used in Twitter. Like Twitter doesn't care about errors at all. They don't worry like if it passes or fails. They just tells you you like it. We make sure you are happy that you have liked it. Just go on with the other post. We don't care if it actually liked or not. This casuality is the type of error which is handled in Facebook Messenger. When it fails, it tells the user that it did not go through, or it's still in progress, or it failed. But it doesn't throw anything as such an abrupt error. The user can find the reason if he wants, but it's his efforts. It's not the UI's effort. These are the two ways of handling errors in case of optimistic UI. Okay, we have spoken enough about optimistic UI now. What's the next thing? What's the meetup about? It's about GraphQL. So the next thing is optimistic UI plus GraphQL. That's what we are here for, and that's what we're going to see now. Before we move on to the next slide, please forgive me, you are going to see the most shittiest flow diagrams in the world. Okay. How does a normal mutation, of course, for people who doesn't know, mutation is the process where we write or edit or delete data from a GraphQL server. And normally when we do any changes in the data, we have a tendency to refresh the data in the UI. That's how UI works. So how it normally happens is, without optimistic UI, a mutation goes as a request, the response comes. Once the mutation is successful, we refetch a query. And once the response of the query comes back, the UI gets updated. Imagine how long it will take. So it's going to be to and fro, so many to and fro process, right? This is how normally UI works. We can use actually a method called update, which comes by default in mutation, because like we know what are the things we need from mutation, right? So when a mutation goes as a request and when it succeeds, this update callback is being called, and this update make another query to the server, but since it already has all the data within itself, it updates into the local store or to the local cache. In terms of Apollo, it's the Apollo cache. It updates the Apollo cache and the UI gets updated automatically. This way, we already have reduced one path and we have already improved the user experience for the user. Now, how will it look if we use optimistic UI? It looks like this. Even before the mutation request goes and reaches the server, the UI will already be updated automatically and in a positive way. And when the response comes back, only if it fails, we revert the UI or we show some error messages and we inform the user like, shit, the response has failed. So just please do it again, or like just ignore us, we are a shit product. So that is the beauty of optimistic UI. Forgive me again for the flow diagrams. Hence, this is how we are going to handle an optimistic UI. Now it's time for code and demo. I have created a dummy or like a dummy backend here. If you see here, I'm running. Okay, I forgot the count. Okay, let me start from the first. If you see here, I'm running something in my local host, and I'm running a query. 35. Okay, I'm running a query where it's going to be okay. It's a list of search history, and in the search history, I'll get the text and the ID and the type name. Just count with me. I'm counting on you people, so you count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. It almost took 4 seconds for the response to come back. This is how I have made a delay. Like it's not the actual time taken. I have made a delay in the dummy backend for 3 seconds. So every operation will be delayed by 3 seconds. Same goes with mutation as well. So let us try the mutation now. Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's successful at the 4th second. I pass something like text 3. Let's check our query now. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have text 3 here. Now imagine I have a application where I put in some data, I make the mutation, it goes to the server and refetches the queries. It's going to take fucking 8 seconds to just show me the update. Let me show you it in action. This is the application. Let me run it. If you see, it took almost like 3-4 seconds for me to show this list. It has 4 items now. I'm adding a new 5th item, 5th search. I'm clicking on search. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. On my 8th second, my history has been updated. What a beauty. And forget about the world's fastest search engine. Like, it's just for a dummy search engine. It's nowhere related to Google. I'm not pulling their legs. And it doesn't show any search results. It just updates your search history. It's just a trap. So this is the time it actually takes for the naive or the native implementation. Let me quickly take you through the code here. I guess all of you are able to see my code. If not, you just let me know. And if you want me to zoom as well, just let me know. I'll zoom it. Okay. So I have 2 components. One is my search input component. That is this piece of area where I make the mutation. And one is my read component or the query component where I just make the query and display it. How do I hide it? Okay. Now, if you quickly have a look at my input component, I'm just making on click of the button, search button, I'm just making a mutation. And after the mutation, I'm making a refetch query. So the updated data comes back. Now let me turn this into an optimistic UI. First thing is, let me create my update function. Update is nothing but a function which gets 2 params as a default argument. One is the store or the local state. Other is the response from the mutation. That is, this update function is executed after the mutation is successful. So the response from the mutation comes as the second param for update function. Since I know my response already, okay, I just moved it, but I know it by heart. It's going to be data, and within data, I'll get my ad search. And I will have to update or I'll have to modify only if my ad search is successful, right? Ad search dot status equal to success. Okay, if it's not equal to success, then I'll just return. I'll not do anything. But if it's successful, what I'll do, first I'll get the list of local search or the local cache. So let me take it, const data equal to store dot read query of, we need to read the query which gives us the list of searches. That is nothing but my get search history query. Now with the data, I need to add my new text. So what I'm going to do, data dot search is nothing but this one, this object, this array of object. I mean, search dot push. I'm going to push a new object which will have the type name. Don't forget, when you are writing into the cache directly, type name is very important. And my type name is search. And next is my ID. Now I'm watch carefully. I'm going to give a negative number for my ID. If you watch here, every number is positive. All the ID is positive. But I'm going to give a negative number. So I will know whether this data, this particular piece of data is being updated optimistically or if it comes from the server. If it had come from the server, it will have a positive ID. And if it comes from the optimistic UI, it will have negative ID. Or I know it's a contrary, like optimistic UI and negative ID, but yeah, that's how it works. There are better ways of identifying as well. You can add a string, you can add a prefix, you can add a suffix, but I prefer this for now. Like it's just a demo. So I'll create a random number. I'll multiply it with by 1. Okay, some zeros, and math.round. Now I have my ID. Third is my text. I don't have to worry about getting text somewhere because I'm still in the same component and text is already in my local state. So I can directly access it. Now that I have taken the list of search history from my local cache, added one new object to it, next step is write back into the cache, right? So store dot write query of query is nothing but our get search history. And what we need to write? We need to write the data, which is nothing but our modified new updated data. This way we have written an update. But how does it much different from a normal thing? Like this update gets executed only when the mutation is successful. But already mutation is taking 3-4 fucking seconds for getting successful, right? Here comes our hero, optimistic response. What are we going to do in optimistic response? We are going to mimic, or we are going to fake as if the UI or if the response is optimistic. So hence, if the response is optimistic, update function will be executed immediately and the UI will be updated immediately. So it's going to be the add search, within which I'll have status as hard-coded. I'll keep it as success because it's optimistic, and type name search. Okay, come on. Now I have created an optimistic response, and after optimistic response, I have created an update function to update the cache, thereby updating the store. Let's see how it works right now. Okay, let me refresh the page. It has 5 lists. Now I'm typing something new, optimistic, and watch the magic. Clicking on search, it got it added immediately, but it's in yellow color. Now after 8 seconds, it will turn white. That's how we achieve optimistic UI in our applications. So what happens here is, last time the user was not sure whether the search history got added or not. Now he can do as many as he wants, and he can keep on adding. He don't have to wait for the previous one. And after everything gets added, it will get resolved automatically. Oh, there is a race condition. I just noticed. I'll refresh again, so you people don't see it. Okay. End of the day, it's just here. Okay. So this is the beauty of optimistic UI. For the user, he feels it got added automatically or immediately, but only we know that it took like 5-6 seconds for it to get added. And it's completely optional for you to whether let the user know by differentiating using colors, or just leave it without doing anything, so the user believes it got added already. That depends again on your confidence on your APIs. So this is how we achieve optimistic UI on any application, for instance. So that's it. Follow me on Twitter for more updates. And if you guys want a quality product or something, just send an email to contact@productrite.com. Our website is still in building phase. We haven't completed it yet. We'll be launching it soon. And also, please do drop some suggestions and feedbacks so I can get better every time. Yeah, thank you. And any questions?
Okay.
Like, you have questions?
Yeah. Yeah, first, like, it was a really, really, really good talk. I think you might want to stop sharing the screen. That's right.
Yeah.
And yeah, such a incredible talk. I think that you has given like such a detailed way of like explaining the optimistic response from like what is going on, like when you are refreshing the query, when you're using the cache, but also when you're using optimistic response with Apollo. You should apply to work with them because it's one of the best explanations that I've seen about Apollo optimistic update. So we have a question. Yeah. So Tobias, actually, he's curious about your opinion when using like the difference between using a state and Usability UI. So, like maybe you want to use Apollo Cache, or you want to do that by yourself, right? With a use state or like a X state, like a machine or like reduce or whatever. In which cases do you rather prefer to use like the Apollo Cache, or do you want to do that like manually?
Whenever it's going to be a mutation, Apollo is my only choice. Like because I don't have to do stuff manually, maintaining everything myself. If I decide to use GraphQL in application, my entire state resolves around, like my entire application resolves around GraphQL. Even for local state management, I use Apollo. So Apollo is the out-of-box solution, but not for every project I decide to use GraphQL. So when I don't use GraphQL, I do my own methods. I have reusable functions which updates the states and looks for changes. I use observables at times when I have to look for this. That's how I use it.
Oh, that sounds really good. And yeah, I totally agree with that. It's super interesting, like the new feature from the Apollo Cast in the version 3.0. So that's gonna be also like interesting. Like we might check this out in our like upcoming events. And I might have like probably the last question before we wrap it up. I would like to hear your thoughts about let's say that we are gonna have the optimities updates, right? How would you deal with kind of like if you're using, let's say that you're using Apollo and you want to invalidate cache some values, how would you like to do that, or how you are doing that in your like current projects?
Currently it's a hell, I'll say, because currently it's a huge Apollo cache is a huge chunk of objects, and mostly we try not to invalidate separate cache, and we just remove it completely, and or like we take the entire cache object, manipulate it, and put it back. We have a library called Apollo Cache Persist, which lets us manipulate cache and persist cache. We make few features of it, but I'm just waiting for the new version to be stable soon, because I have already gone through the updates of cache, like invalidating cache, emitting a part of it, garbage collection. Everything is super cool with it, and it will definitely remove huge chunk of codes from our code base, like the custom code which we have written, the pain in the hash we have, everything will be taken off.
That sounds
So,
that
yeah,
sounds that sounds good. I totally agree with that. So yeah, perfect. So I think we can wrap it up. So like first, like thanks so much for joining us today, for giving this incredible talk. We have a lot of proposals, but you reached us out like long time ago. So I said Vilva has to be here, the first one. And so yeah, thanks so much for like coming here and just like joining and like share your knowledge. So yeah, I really hope to see you sometime soon.
Yeah, sure, Carlos. Maybe after all this lockdown shit gets over, we should meet somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, that'll be great. So I think like we are gonna like jump into kind of like we're gonna jump into kind of like finish it off like the meetup. So I think we are like here. Maybe I'm not sure if David is, but I can see Tobias. Vilva is also here. So like first, like I really want to thank like everybody's like speakers. Yeah, I think like we all are here. So thanks so much first to David for joining us. I think he's joining from Paris, but he's super active in the Hong Kong community. So thanks so much, David, for being here. Also, thanks so much to Vilva. Vilva, thanks so much. I think you are calling from Berlin. Thanks so much for joining us. And yeah, like I think like you have such incredible talk, so that's great. 2 live demos, and also I really want to thanks to Mitchell, that I really like his background, by the way. It's awesome. And yeah, it's been a pleasure to partner with you, because it helps a lot to have your help and your support to run these events. And also to Tobias for like putting all the effort to make this happen, because it's a lot of work to reach out the speaker sponsors, like prepare all the content, etc. And yeah, by like to finish it off, I have a announcement. I think it's like a really big announcement. So I really want to first like share my screen, if I can do that, if I know how to do this. Yeah, I think it should be here. Let me just do this quickly. It should be, I guess, this one. Yep. I feel like now you're gonna be able to see hopefully my screen. Can you see my screen, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's basically like I really want to announce that by today I got a step up. It's like kind of like delegate all my responsibility as a GraphQL Hong Kong organizer, and Tobias in this case he's gonna be the main organizer for GraphQL Hong Kong. Today onwards, just because as of time of pandemics I cannot go back to Hong Kong area, and I think that I shouldn't take care of this. And I think like Tobias he's gonna be there in close to Hong Kong. He's gonna be able to hopefully have on-site meetups. I'm not sure when that's gonna happen, but yeah, he's gonna be able to run this. So I'm super happy to delegate him to, like all the other responsibilities, and like just to let the people know that we have a website that we just have like renew with all the coming meetups, the past meetups, the conferences. We've been thinking to run a conference this year. I'm not sure that's going to happen. Probably not on site because it's so difficult. We need time, but maybe online. Let's try to do that. And yeah, we have here all the speakers, all the sponsors. If you want to sponsor us, like please feel free to reach out. We are looking for speakers. Like we are prioritizing local speakers. So if you're in Hong Kong right now, please reach us out. Here you're gonna find a like the where you can just like send us a message. And the same, we have the meetup.com page, so you can just go here and like join us, and you're gonna get the notification about every single event. With the same, we are posting like all the videos and all the photos. And the same, we have a Twitter, so it's at GraphQL Hong Kong, and we are like pretty active. So you're gonna find the different meetups, also a lot of different like other events. So for example, Hasura, they were running a event like pretty cool like yesterday I think it was, and we are like putting all the information here, so feel free to join us, of course. So with that, I really want to say thanks so much for everybody's, as it has been like 3 meetups and 1 conference. I meet a lot of incredible people in the GraphQL Hong Kong community. They are like super passionate. They are like extremely kind. And yeah, I want to close this off today just saying that please let's try to keep promoting diversity, inclusivity, like first-time speakers. I think these community events, they are like a really good way to get started with new technology, whatever it's like GraphQL, JavaScript, TypeScript, PHP, Python, doesn't matter. The good thing is like just being together, learn new things, like make new friends. And I would like to see a new upcoming GraphQL events upcoming, and I'm pretty sure like Tobias is gonna do really good. So I just gonna like just leave to Tobias to say, I guess, the latest go by today, and probably like share a bit of what is gonna be the future of GraphQL Hong Kong from now onwards. But yeah, thanks so much for able to be in this like GraphQL Hong Kong 3. Really looking forward to see you again soon.
Yeah, thank you, Carlos. I think that's already the perfect ending. So pretty hard for me to top this ending. If I had flowers right now, I would probably give them to you because I know you've been working very hard on this, and also together with Danny, a little bit undercover, helping to making this event happen. So really thank you very much to organizing this and bringing 2 great talks together today. And I really hope that nothing much will change. The only thing that might change is that we will be able to run meetups on site. That will be great. I don't know when that's going to be. So we will keep everyone updated, of course. But in the meantime, we will just keep going. So the plan is really probably 2 months from now, we will have the next meetup. Is it going to be on site? I don't know. So we will see and decide depending on the situation. And yeah, thank you everyone really today for joining in. And I think one thing that is really missing in the online meetups, and I think the Coding Machine has a great solution for that, is to kind of get together. And the networking, I think, is a great part of online events that is not so explored yet. And David, maybe if you want to share a little bit on what you had in mind for today, for this meetup, what we can do, we'll kind of get this going.
Yes, of course. Well, Well, this is the first. I've never talked about it until today. So yes, this is really a first. I will be sharing my screen again, last time. What we have been working on is actually virtual offices of the coding machine. And I realized it could be really cool for any meetup, and GraphQL meetup in particular. So if you guys are still watching, what you can do is actually go to workadventure.re, and look, it's like a really small video game. And basically, you can pick a user, choose a name, and here we go. And you can go and talk to other people. So if you want to join us, simply, connect to Work Adventure. And if you have any questions, if you want to hang out together, please do, and please come to me. I'm Dan, you can see. And if you want to speak to someone, just go next to him. And here we can talk together. Right now, I need to shut down my camera in Zoom to be able to talk to you. But yeah, I see Carlos. And
yes.
Guys, if you want to come, we are waiting for you right now.
Awesome. So thanks so much to everybody. So I think we can wrap it up here. I'm already in the chat, so please feel free to join, and we can have the after party in Work Adventure. It looks incredible. So
thank you very much.
Yeah. So thanks so much for everybody. Thanks so much for the people that that they have joined online. We are gonna put all the videos as soon as they are edited and recorded probably next week. And again, thanks so much for everything, for everybody's, for all the meetups, all the learnings, and hoping to see you soon. So have a good day, and we will see each other soon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carlos. See you in the Work Adventure.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, Michael. Thanks so much. Thanks so much,
Okay.
Vilva.
You need to put your camera on.
Yes. Wait a sec.
Okay.
Are we still live, Mitchell? Can you finish the live stream, probably?
Finish the live stream. Hang on.
And then we will do the